Jared here with another video from Fanboys Forever. And today we're actually going to be having a look at some leaked photographs of the brand new Masterverse figures from Mattel. Now these are interesting because, as you can clearly see, these are meant to be based on the new Kevin Smith anime type of series that's coming on Netflix. So first off, you can see this is just the basic He-Man figure that they have, and we saw some early pictures of these a little while back. And they looked all right, but I don't think they were exactly what people were hoping for. And thankfully, it does appear that there have definitely been some improvements made since we've seen that. There's still a few things that I would say people are concerned about, but we'll get into all of that. First off, let's just look at the packaging before we talk about the actual figures themselves, because all of them share the exact same packaging, so we may as well talk about it once. You can see we have Masterverse up there, and there's all this kind of blue, almost as if it's frosted over or frozen or something. Maybe it's just rock. Then we have a little Netflix logo right there, so they are definitely, this is definitely a permanent thing for them. This must really be a part of the deal, whatever deal that they made. So they're trying to promote the show. You can see down here that more of that kind of stonework is going around. I'm surprised there really isn't much of a Castle Grayskull motif here. And then we have the logo for the show that we've seen for a long time since they've announced it, Masters of the Universe Revelation. And it says He-Man. And then we have a little Mattel logo down there. I like this for the fact that it's very dignified looking. It's it's definitely a mature type of looking packaging. But I don't like it because it's not very eye-catching. There's not really a lot going on, and I think it's missing some of that kind of bombastic Masters font. I'll tell you what would have looked a lot better is if we'd taken this top portion right here and we'd had a little more room for, say, the more classic-looking Masters of the Universe logo or a variation of that. Without that, it just looks kind of small. And then there's something really odd, but you have the UPC barcode right up there at the top right corner. I have never in my life seen an action figure that does this. I mean, maybe it's out there and I just didn't realize it. Maybe there's like WWE figures that do this. I don't really collect any of that stuff, but that would be the only thing scale-wise I could think that Mattel is doing right now that's comparable. So I don't know. The packaging, I have very mixed feelings about that. But if you're like me, I don't collect any of the packaging really. I'm going to throw that away just as soon as I get it. And instead, let's focus on the figure itself. And I have to say, I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing. I think that, it's not exactly what I would have done necessarily, but I do like it. I really do. First off, let's talk about the actual sculpt itself. First things first, from what I can tell, the head sculpt there, it's actually very detailed. I'm liking the hairpiece up there, and it looks like it has some really good sculpting. And I think the color is just right, too. It doesn't look yellowy. It actually looks like a pretty legit-looking blonde. The harness looks exactly right for what you would think of He-Man, and it looks very classic. I know Kevin Smith had assured fans that these would be recognizable as some of those original Filmation designs or original toy designs, whatever you want to say, and I definitely think that this lives up to that. You can also see the belt and the gauntlet over there is, but then over here we have what kind of looks like He-Man's like snake armor gauntlet that he wore from the 2000X stuff. It's very kind of different. Gives him a little bit more of a barbarian vibe. And it does look like for He-Man's furry shorts here that he does, I can't really tell 100%. Maybe he kind of has the whole like pouch look, the kind of Celtic look that we'd seen in the 2000X stuff. Then down here, the legs are pretty bulky, and it does appear that he has double-jointed knees. It's hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure. We've got the furry boots. We have a very classical power sword. It's kind of thin. Classic shield. We have alternate hands right there. And really, I think everything looks really good. I think that the biggest complaints are going to come from probably the sort of more slender upper chest. But you have to look at some of the stylings of what this company is doing, what this anime studio does, especially if you look at things like Castlevania and other anime that they're involved in. There's sort of more of a slender, it's definitely not like Aeon Flux, it's not that slender, but there's definitely more of kind of that sort of physique to the characters that they do. So in the end, what you get is a figure that ends up looking like a fusion between the 2000X stuff that we got and the Filmation stuff. And that excites me quite a bit. Weaknesses for the figure, from what I can tell right now, the paint scheme looks fairly basic. I mean, it's not horrible. Everything's here that you would expect, but there's definitely some paint applications that could be made that I think that would improve the overall look of the figure. I can already tell that probably a nice little wash would do some wonders for the hair. I can definitely tell that if there was some kind of wash applied or some kind of highlighting applied to some of the muscles, I think that would kind of help that stand out better. The arms are huge, quite a bit bigger than the chest, so maybe some posing would sort of alleviate that. Definitely the belt and the gauntlets would need a little help because to me that is the weakest element visually of this figure from what I'm seeing. It looks like this is just kind of a dull, sort of mustardy gold plastic. And we know what a problem that can be. You can ask the people at Bandai that always try to do the Power Rangers figures and get the gold right. And Hasbro still, it's not perfect, but they're doing all right with it. Other than that, yeah, I think this is a solid B plus so far. It's not perfect, but honestly, I'm excited about it. It looks very articulated. It's very well sculpted, and honestly, I'm very pleased with what Mattel has done here. And it's certainly a very different flavor from the Origin stuff. So yeah, looking forward to that one. All right, next up, we have Skeletor. Obviously, these are going to be the two front runners for any Masters of the Universe line. There's definitely some things here that I'm less clear on than He-Man. Whereas with He-Man, when we looked at the accessories, it was obvious what was packed in there. With Skeletor, it's a little iffier for me because I'm a little more confused about I guess it's like a wooden staff, has a circle on the top of it. I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking at, and I feel kind of silly trying to speculate on what it is. But maybe you guys can help me out. Maybe something like perches on there, but I'm not really sure. Then over there, you also have his staff and the ram's head and all that, and that looks good. That definitely reminds me more of the 2000X stuff. Skeletor himself here, I really like the figure, and a whole lot of it, I think, like the physique is reused from He-Man, actually, which is, of course, in keeping with every Masters line pretty much we've ever seen, besides the 2000X stuff, at least I think. But, the head sculpt definitely reminds me of once again, a fusion between the 2000X and the Filmation stuff, but even more than all of that, it really does remind me of some of that old artwork from the abandoned Hero, Son of He-Man stuff. I don't know, there's just something about the way the skull is shaped. I think maybe the top of his head looks a little slight. I think that's because the hood is so far down. So that's going to take a little getting used to. I'm used to seeing more of like the forehead on the skull head, but maybe that's something you can kind of shape and play with. Just looking back at He-Man, it's not quite as bad on He-Man, but I know a lot of people were saying there's kind of a pinhead look. And, Skeletor, I think, has a little bit more of that. You can see just how small it is compared to the breadth of the shoulders there. But I honestly do believe this is more of just the styling of the kind of anime that we're going to see in the show. This is just going to be accurate to it. And you can never, ever, ever judge this kind of thing just based on a static image. You have to see the animation moving. You have to see... that's part of the experience. So overall, though, this is an incredibly traditional design. And I know a lot of people went back and forth in some of these designs when they first saw them, but I don't know, guys. I'm not really sure how much more traditional you can go than this. I guess people want the Origins proportions, but, if you're doing something a little grittier, a little more realistic, this fits the bill for me. So, yeah, aside from the still very bland packaging, would it have been great if they would have at least made this purple or green instead of the blue to denote the Evil Warriors. I think that would have been nice. All right, next up we have Evil Lyn. I think this one's very interesting looking. Definitely Evil Lyn looks like she's wearing like a colder weather getup. There's fur around the collar. It is sleeveless, so maybe it's not too cold of weather. But there's a few things I want to compliment here. One of them is the head sculpt. I think the head sculpt is very expressive and kind of more, I don't know, it looks more chiseled, more kind of middle-aged, I suppose. And to me, that's a lot more interesting than just doing the, hey, Evil Lyn is, 20 years old kind of look that we see in a lot of stuff. So I like that. I think it is funny that she is so skin-toned and so traditionally skin-toned. with Evil Lyn, we're either used to seeing her skin practically yellow or kind of a grayish tone. So I think that's what's throwing people off. The outfit is very, very blue as well, and it's almost something that I would expect to be a little more purple. I guess it's because the 2000X stuff has kind of caused me to see it that way or kind of get in that mode of thinking. But I think that just overall, it's a really good looking figure. She comes with quite a few alternate hands. There's the staff back there. Looks like an attachment for it and an alternate head. So she actually does have an alternate head with her white hair out from the kind of crown piece. So I actually think this is a really good figure, but I'd probably short pack this thing because, I mean, this probably won't be quite as desirable as the others. So this might be one you kind of see laying around a little bit more just because it's a little more of the off the beaten path. So it's definitely interesting though, and I like the figure. It looks good. I probably would have went with Tila instead of Evil Lyn for this first wave. I think you sort of want some buy-in before you're trying to start sell people Evil Lyn, but who knows? Maybe she'll be a breakout character for the show. And lastly, we have Mossman. Now, this is something I would say it's unexpected, but Mossman was one of the very first figures that we saw leaked out in some of those early promotional photos, and sure enough, he is pretty well accurate to those leaked pictures. He comes with a huge, almost like, I don't know if those are roots or what they are in the background. Looks like some kind of hand extension, all sorts of alternate hands, all kinds of mossy goodness on the sculpt there. And I would say that pretty easily, this is the most impressive sculpt out of all of them. I really love the paintwork on this guy too. And that's not something you would usually say from a Mattel product, but it looks like they have absolutely put the pedal to the metal in terms of how much paint budget that we have going here. So I'm really pleased with that, actually. And I think it looks great. I'm a big Swamp Thing fan, so it's terrific to see this. So Mossman overall might be the best looking one. But in terms of functionality, I do have a few concerns. Maybe this is less articulated than the others. I think that most of the articulation looks fine, but the kind of loincloth piece is much more significant here. And it does look like that the chest might just be one big solid piece. I'm not sure if I'm seeing the articulation cuts or anything in there. So I don't know, that might be something to keep in mind. He does have this boast on the top of his packaging that he has 30 points of articulation. So that's interesting because if we look through the other pictures, none of the others say that. I have no idea why that is, especially because I've just identified that he may not even possess some of the torso kind of cuts and functionality as the others. So it's kind of interesting. I don't really know what to make of that. But one thing is for sure, all four of these look like very interesting releases. And this Masterverse line, we're going to see what this is. Some people have speculated that this will be like an all-encompassing kind of 6-7 inch Masters line. We're not even 100% sure what the exact scale of these guys are. These are early days yet. These are kind of early leaks of these figures. That's why the quality isn't the best. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly what comes from this. And also it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they do about official announcements and things of that nature. So, of course, keep it tuned right here to Fanboys Forever so that you can see more updates about these guys. And, of course, as more images, especially official images that are HD and all that we can get a better look, we'll be looking at those as well. So, guys, of course, until next time, thank you so much for watching. God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Take care. Fanboy out.